Welcome back to the final part of Arise 360. Well, everyone is talking about last night's Oscars. So let's head back to LA. That's La La Land as Dudita Da Silva talks with the actress and editor Tanisha Grant. So over to you, Hollywood.
Thank you. So I'm here with Tanisha Laverne Grant, and you are a veteran of the red carpet.
Oh my
so
God.
Red Carpet Award season is your second home. So I
Tis
really
true.
wanted to get your perspective on like the deeper part of this Oscar ceremony. So we saw in the Golden Globes award winners like Sam Mendes and Brad Pitt paying homage to Martin Scorsese when they won. There was kind of, you could sense an awkwardness that they felt they were winning in the presence of someone who deserved it better. Then we went to the Oscars, and we saw again, there was a kind of salute to Martin Scorsese from Bong Joon-ho and also Renee Zellweger. So when you're looking at Martin Scorsese is here in award season with a streaming service film, Netflix, and is losing out to the studio films. Do you feel like he fell on the sword, having, like, should I say, sold his soul to the streaming world?
No, because, oh, sorry guys, I just slipped on my heel just slipped. You know, art is about art. Art is not about winning awards.
Yeah.
And I don't think artists like Martin Scorsese really deeply care that much about the award. I believe Scorsese cares about the work. And it's nice to be acknowledged, right? It's nice for your colleagues or for those who are coming up behind you to pay homage and respect to you. That's always great. That's wonderful. That's awesome. We should always pay a deference. But I definitely don't think Scorsese fell on a sword of streaming services. He's one of the greatest directors of our time.
Yeah. So, but when you hear about things like, we've heard Steven Spielberg say quite harsh words about Netflix. You've heard Pedro Almodovar say some harsh words about Netflix because they don't feel there's fealty to traditional filmmaking, because they feel films should go into theaters and should stay there for a while. They should be made on celluloid. They're old school about that. But then someone like Scorsese, someone of that caliber, is saying he could only find a home for the art to be as true to the art as he saw it at Netflix. So are we seeing civil war between streamers and studios?
What we're seeing is a changing of the guard. And wherever there's change, there's always a level of frustration, right? People don't like change, especially if the change may not affect them in a way that they see beneficial to them. Yeah. You know, it's just like, you know, when we went from, you know, silent movies to radio to black and white to color television, you know, and now here we are in the digital age. And so this is an ushering in of the new guard. And I think if you want to be successful in the space of Hollywood and film, and telling story and making amazing story, you have to welcome the changing of the guard. If you talk about diversity and inclusion, you have to welcome the changing of the guard, because it is the streaming services that is creating a wider space for diversity and inclusion. There are some actors, writers, producers, and directors who just wouldn't have a chance or wouldn't have an opportunity to work if it weren't for the streaming services. So if you say, if directors and people like Steven Spielberg say that they are about diversity and inclusion, then they have to welcome the streaming services. I mean, Steven Spielberg, earlier in his career, he had Color Purple, Alice Walker, Color Purple, which starred Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey. You can't hire that level of black talent and then fast forward, you know, and talk about, you know, streaming services in a poor way. It just, something's off there.
But one thing that I've noticed as well is that when you're talking about diversity, there was the big debate that at the Oscars it was pretty much Cynthia Erivo flying the flag for diversity. And when you think about what you've just said about streaming services being this kind of virgin land for anyone to make what they and make the art that they feel is truest to them, it's become a sanctuary for artists, because we're like last year we saw Alfonso Cuarón's Roma run away with all the awards.
Oh my God, that wasn't that wonderful.
It was beautiful, black and white in a foreign language.
Yeah.
I believe it opened doors to Parasite to be embraced. So do you think that streaming is becoming a landscape that really embraces all the diversity that studios claim to want to but don't in practice?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we talk about a lot of the films, black films that get greenlit in Hollywood, and they are still about slavery. They are still about the black experience and the brokenness of the black experience, and not the beauty and the totality of the black experience. So, yeah, I think streaming services create a beautiful landscape for stories to be told that are nuanced, that are layered, that show us in all our various colors. You know, Hollywood likes to present us one way. Yeah. One way, we're either slaves or we're broken families, or police criminals. Brutality, you know. So, and that's old. Yeah. That's old. That's just a small part of what this experience means. Yeah.
And also now going back to the position as journalists and presenters and like being on the red carpet, what I found is that a lot of it was also mentioned in the Grammys, a lot of the black stars bypass black press because now they seem to have made it or leveled up to the higher echelons of fame. That acceptance of I'm really a contender only comes by way of being on white outlets. Why is that the case in Hollywood?
You know, I think that's the case because colonization is a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think unfortunately sometimes even in this black experience, we don't always believe in our own currency.
Yeah.
You know, we make billions and billions and billions of dollars. We're the biggest consumers. But yet, even when it comes to us, we want to walk past somebody who looks like us, someone who has pretty much laid the foundation for our visibility in the Hollywood space. Yeah. We safeguard our writers, our producers, our directors, our actors. Yeah. We put out those think pieces, we put out those profile pieces, and then as soon as they're in Variety or the Hollywood Reporter, or they're in a film that's A-list, or they're opposite this A-list actor, then those same black media outlets are frowned upon, and that's so unfortunate. And I don't think it's going to change either.
But then jumping up from that, one final question I wanted to ask you is that, do you feel that, for instance, when you see the burgeoning of streaming services, you've seen Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Peacock, and other services that are now coming out of Africa, for instance, Arise Play, do you feel that that is the answer? Because like we said, it's a sanctuary for people to create their own art on their own terms. If black people are telling their own stories in their own way, you cultivate an appetite that isn't defined by any Caucasian barometer. Do you think that's the answer?
You know, it's part of the answer, but I think there's just so many that still want to be accepted in the mainstream.
Yeah. But do you think like that's a part of being in the West? So streaming services that are now coming out of Africa could be a different kind of landscape?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You're cynical, though.
No, you know, it's not that I'm cynical, but I pay attention to how people respond and change.
Yeah.
You know, and again, people are resistant to change. Okay. That's why there are movements, because people are resistant to change.
But on that point, because I know we have to now go cut to a break, but thank you so much for talking about this, and I'm sure we can talk about it more off camera. But that's all from myself and Tanisha Laverne Grant. Back to you at the studio.
Thank you so much, Judita, as well as Kachi and Kechi, and not forgetting Ketura, as well as all our special guests tonight. Well, sadly, we've come to the end of our show and the end of the award season. But don't forget that you can catch Arise 360 7 days a week here on the Arise News channel. And so from here in Abuja, as well as the team in Los Angeles, thank you for watching.